At 2:17 a.m., I woke up to my daughter whispering, not crying, not screaming, whispering, like someone was standing right in front of her. I stood frozen in the hallway, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure she could hear it. Her bedroom door was slightly open, a thin line of warm light cutting through the darkness. I stepped closer and heard her clearly. Okay, I won't tell Mommy. My stomach dropped. She wasn't talking to herself. I pushed the door open. She was sitting upright on her bed, blanket pulled to her chest, staring at the corner near her closet. When she noticed me, she flinched, like a child caught doing something wrong. Who are you talking to? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She hesitated, then she pointed. The man who knows my name. There was nothing there, just shadows. I forced a smile, sat beside her, and told her it was probably a bad dream. She nodded, but her eyes never left that corner. When she finally lay down, she whispered one last thing that made my blood run cold. He says this used to be his room, too. We had moved into the house 3 weeks earlier. It wasn't our dream home, but it was affordable, almost suspiciously so. A quiet neighborhood, tall trees, no close neighbors. The real estate agent had rushed the paperwork and avoided eye contact whenever I asked questions about the house's history. I thought nothing of it. I wish I had. The first week was normal, boxes everywhere, laughter, that feeling of a fresh start. My daughter Lily loved her room. She called it her moon room because the window perfectly framed the night sky. Then the little things started. Lily began waking up tired. She complained that someone kept turning on her closet light at night. I checked, nothing wrong with the switch. One morning, I found her drawings under the bed, crayon sketches of a tall figure standing beside a smaller one. When I asked her who it was, she shrugged. He doesn't like when I draw him. That night, I installed a baby monitor in her room. At 2:17 a.m., it turned on by itself. Static filled the screen. Then Lily's voice. Why can't I go with you? My chest tightened as I watched her sit up slowly, eyes still closed. Then another voice came through the monitor. Low, calm, adult. Not yet. I ran. By the time I reached her room, the monitor went silent. Lily was asleep. The closet light was on. I didn't sleep at all after that. The next day, I searched the house for answers. Old documents, loose boards, anything. In the attic, buried beneath insulation, I found a dust-covered box. Inside were newspaper clippings. One headline stood out. Local man found dead in bedroom. Case remains unsolved. The address matched our house. The article said the man had lived alone. No family, no visitors. Cause of death unknown. The most disturbing part? He died at 2:17 a.m. That night, I locked Lily's door. At 2:16 a.m., the handle started turning. Slowly, carefully, from the outside. Lily began to whisper again. Mommy, he's angry. I grabbed my phone to call the police. That's when a message appeared on my screen. From an unknown number. You shouldn't have locked the door. And from inside the room, Lily asked a question I will never forget. Mommy, why does he look like you in the pictures? I stared at my phone, my hands shaking. The message was still there. You shouldn't have locked the door. No caller ID, no number, just those words. Before I could react, the door handle stopped moving. Complete silence. I slowly unlocked the door and pushed it open. Lily was sitting on her bed, knees pulled to her chest, eyes wide open. She wasn't crying. She was staring at me with a look I had never seen before. Confusion mixed with fear. Where is he? I whispered. She shook her head. He went back to the wall. I checked every corner of the room. Closet, under the bed, behind the curtains. Nothing. The house felt normal again. Too normal. I sat beside Lily and asked her about the pictures. What pictures were you talking about? I asked carefully. She hesitated, then pointed toward the hallway. The ones in the boxes, with you, but not you. My heart skipped. I had never shown her any old photos. The next morning, after dropping Lily at school, I went straight to the storage room. The box from the attic was still there. I opened it again, digging deeper this time. At the bottom, beneath the newspapers, were photographs. Black and white, old. They showed the inside of the house decades ago. Same walls, same hallway, same bedroom. And in several of them was a man. Tall, thin, expressionless. But what froze me in place was something else. In one photo, he was standing beside a little girl. She looked exactly like Lily. Same hair, same face, same birthmark near the eye. I dropped the photo. That wasn't possible. Lily wasn't even related to anyone who had lived here before. We adopted her when she was 2. The records were sealed, but we were told her biological family history was unknown. My phone rang. It was the school. They told me Lily had locked herself in the bathroom and refused to come out. She kept saying she had to go home before night. When I arrived, she ran into my arms, trembling. "He said you'd find the pictures," she whispered. "He says you already know him." That evening, I confronted Lily. I hated myself for it, but I needed answers. "Lily," I said softly, "when did you first see him?" She thought for a moment. "Before we moved." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "In the other place. He was there too. He watched me sleep." I felt dizzy. She had never mentioned anything like that before. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. She looked down. "He said you wouldn't remember." That night, I didn't let Lily sleep alone. I set up cameras throughout the house. Doors locked, lights on. I sat awake on the couch, watching every screen. At 2:16 a.m., the living room camera flickered. The hallway camera went black. Then Lily sat up suddenly. She wasn't asleep. She was staring directly at the corner of the room. "You promised," she said. The air felt heavy, thick, like the house was holding its breath. Then the camera behind me turned on. I watched the screen slowly fill with a familiar shape. A tall figure stood just inches behind the couch. He leaned closer to Lily, and for the first time, I heard him clearly. "She remembers better than you?" I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Because on the screen, as he tilted his head toward the camera, I finally saw his face. It was older, colder, but unmistakable. It was my face. I don't remember turning around. I don't remember screaming. All I remember is waking up on the living room floor, the camera still rolling, the house completely silent. The clock on my phone read 2:43 a.m. 26 minutes had passed. I checked the footage. What I saw made my hands go numb. At 2:17 a.m., the figure appeared behind the couch, wearing my face. He didn't move at first. He just stood there, watching Lily, watching me. Then the screen glitched. When it cleared, I was gone from the couch. The camera showed me standing in the hallway, facing him. But there was no sound. No struggle, no fear. Just the two of us, staring at each other like reflections in a broken mirror. Then the footage cut to static. I shut off the monitor and ran to Lily's room. She was asleep. Peacefully. Too peacefully, I shook her gently until her eyes opened. "Lily," I whispered, "what happened last night?" She blinked slowly. "You talked to him?" she said. "You promised again." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Promised what?" She sat up and looked at me carefully, like she was choosing her words. "That you wouldn't remember until it was time." That morning, I called the number from the newspaper article. It belonged to a retired detective. He didn't want to talk at first, but when I gave him the address, he went silent for a long time. Then he said something that still echoes in my head. "That case was never solved because the body didn't match the timeline." I drove to his house. He showed me old case files, photos, statements. The man who died in my house had my name, my full name, same birthday, same height, same scars. But the records said he was 20 years older than me. He claimed he'd lived in that house his entire life, the detective said. But no one remembered him moving in. It was like he'd always been there, and nowhere at the same time. "Why wasn't this public?" I asked. The detective looked uneasy. "Because before he died, he said something we couldn't explain." He handed me a taped transcript. I read it. "If I die, she will forget. But the house will remember." My hands shook. "Who is she?" I asked. The detective didn't answer. He just looked at me. That night, Lily refused to eat. She sat quietly, pushing her food around her plate. "He's tired," she said suddenly. "Tired of what?" I asked. Waiting. I put her to bed early and sat outside her room. At 2:10 a.m., the temperature dropped. The walls creaked like they were breathing. Then a smell filled the hallway. Old wood, dust, something rotten. The closet door slowly opened. The light flickered on by itself. And then he stepped out. Not fully. Like he was struggling to exist. He looked at me with my own eyes. "You're not real," I whispered. He smiled. "Neither are you. Not the way you think." Images flooded my mind. A younger version of me. A woman holding a baby. This house. Always this house. I fell to my knees. "What did you do to me?" I screamed. He leaned closer. "I saved you." The walls began to whisper. Lily's voice echoed from her room. "Mommy, he says it's almost time to switch." The lights went out, and in the darkness, he said the words that shattered everything I believed. "This house doesn't let us die. It only replaces us." I didn't sleep after that night. I sat outside Lily's room, my back against the wall, listening to the house breathe. Every creak felt intentional. Every shadow felt aware. When morning came, Lily stepped out quietly and sat beside me. She didn't ask why I was there, like she already knew. "You remember now, don't you?" she said. "Remember what?" She tilted her head the same way he did. "Why I'm here." My chest tightened. I grabbed my keys and took her away immediately. No bags, no planning, just driving. We checked into a motel miles away. Bright lights, noise, people everywhere. Lily laughed that evening, like the fear had never existed. That night, I slept for the first time in weeks. No whispers, no 2:17. At 2:17 a.m., the motel TV turned on by itself. Static filled the room. Then a familiar voice came through. Calm, patient. "You can't leave." I unplugged the TV. The lights flickered once and stabilized. Lily sat up slowly. "He's sad," she whispered. "He says the house misses me." The next morning, Lily had a fever. By noon, she couldn't stand. The doctor said it was dehydration and stress, but his eyes avoided mine. As we left the clinic, Lily grabbed my hand tightly. "He says if we don't go back, I'll disappear." I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. By evening, her reflection didn't match her movements. She smiled a second late, blinked out of sync. I took a photo with my phone. When I checked it, Lily wasn't in the picture. That night, the motel door knocked itself. 3 slow knocks. I opened it. No one there. On the floor was a single object. One of Lily's crayon drawings. The house, the moon window, and 2 figures standing inside. One small, one tall, both labeled in shaky handwriting. Me, her. We drove back. I told myself it was temporary, just to stabilize her. Just one night. The moment we crossed the street, Lily's fever broke. She sat up straight and smiled. "He says thank you," she said. The house lights turned on by themselves. The door opened without a sound. Inside, the air felt warm, welcoming, like we had been expected. That night, I heard footsteps above me. Lily's room. I ran upstairs. She was standing in the center of the room, eyes fixed on the wall. The surface rippled like water. A figure pressed against it from the other side. "He says it's time," Lily whispered. "For what?" I asked. "To choose." The wall opened like a door. The man stepped out fully this time. Solid, real. Wearing my face, but older. Tired. He looked at Lily with something like love. "She's the anchor," he said. "The house needs a child, a witness, someone who remembers us between lives." "You're using her," I screamed. He shook his head. "She chose." Lily stepped toward him. "He kept me safe before," she said softly. "When you couldn't." Memories slammed into me. A fire, screaming, me choosing the house over escape, a promise whispered in smoke. "What happens now?" I asked. He smiled sadly. "One of us stays, one of us leaves, and Lily remembers only the one the house keeps." The lights flickered. The clock in the hallway ticked louder. 2:16. Lily looked at me. "Don't be scared," she said. "It doesn't hurt to forget." The house inhaled, and the door behind me slowly locked itself. The clock struck 2:17 a.m. The sound echoed through the house like a verdict. The man stood between me and Lily, his face calm, almost merciful. The wall behind him slowly sealed itself, as if the house didn't want to witness what came next. "One stays," he said softly. "One leaves. The house decides who is remembered." "No," I said. My voice broke. "You don't get to choose my child." He looked at Lily. "She was never only yours." Lily stepped forward. Her small hand slipped from mine. The moment her skin left mine, a sharp pain tore through my chest, like something vital had been pulled out. "He kept his promise," she said. "You forgot yours." Memories flooded back violently, flames climbing the walls, smoke choking my lungs. A younger version of Lily crying as I dragged her toward the door, then stopping, turning back, choosing the house because the man promised safety, promised survival, promised that if I stayed, she would live. I fell to my knees. "I stayed," I whispered. "I paid the price." He shook his head. "You stayed once. That bought her childhood. Now the house is hungry again." The walls creaked. The floor vibrated beneath us. The house wasn't listening to words anymore. It wanted balance. Lily looked at me, eyes too old for her face. "It's okay," she said gently. "If you stay, I won't be scared anymore." I reached for her, but my hand passed through her arm for a second before solidifying again. The man noticed. His expression darkened. "You're already fading," he said. "The house has started choosing." Panic rose inside me. "Then take me," I shouted. "Let her go. I'll stay. I'll remember everything." The man studied me carefully. "That means she forgets you completely." I didn't hesitate. "If that keeps her alive, do it." Lily's eyes widened. "No," she whispered. "You promised you wouldn't leave again?" "I won't," I said, forcing a smile. "I'll always be here. You just won't see me." The house responded instantly. The air grew warm. The walls glowed faintly, like veins under skin. The clock hands spun backward. The man stepped closer to me. "Once it starts, you can't stop it." "I know." He placed his hand on my chest. Cold surged through my body. My memories began to peel away, not vanish, but embed themselves into the walls. Every laugh, every scream, every promise. Lily screamed my name. Then the house whispered hers. The room blurred. I felt myself stretching, thinning, becoming something less solid. The man stepped back as my reflection appeared on the wall. Older, hollow-eyed, watching from the other side. "It's done," he said. The front door slammed shut. Suddenly, I was standing alone in the hallway. The house was quiet, peaceful. Morning light streamed through the windows. I heard footsteps behind me. A woman's voice. "Lily, breakfast is ready." I turned. A woman stood in the kitchen. Not me. Someone else. Her face unfamiliar, but comfortable in the space. Lily ran past me laughing and hugged her. "Mommy!" She ran straight through me. Didn't see me, didn't feel me. The woman smiled down at her. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes," Lily said. "The house is quiet now." She paused, then frowned slightly. "I had a dream about someone who stayed behind." The woman brushed her hair gently. "Just a dream." Lily nodded and forgot. The house exhaled, and I finally understood. I hadn't escaped the house. I had become it. Time doesn't move the same way once the house owns you. Morning and night blur together, measured not by clocks but by memories settling into the walls. I was everywhere and nowhere at once. In the creak of the stairs. In the cold spot near the closet. In the pause before a light flickered. I watched Lily grow without seeing me. Each year, her laughter echoed differently. Each year, the house grew stronger. She forgot my face first, then my voice, eventually my name. That was the price. The house fed on forgetting. But it never erased everything. It kept pieces of me, just enough to keep me awake, just enough to make me watch. The man with my face returned sometimes, standing where the wall met the floor. He looked younger now, lighter. "You're settling in," he said once. "I didn't choose this," I replied. He nodded. "Neither did I. That's how the house survives. Someone always stays." Years passed. New furniture replaced old. New photos covered the walls. Lily grew taller, smarter, quieter. She stopped talking to herself at night, but sometimes she paused in the hallway at 2:17 a.m., frowning like she almost remembered something important. The house held its breath every time. One evening, a moving truck pulled into the driveway. A family stepped out. Parents. A young boy. I felt the house stir with excitement. Fresh fear, fresh memories. No, I whispered. The man appeared beside me. It's time, he said calmly. For what? To be replaced. That night, the boy slept in Lily's old room. The moon framed the window perfectly. I watched him toss and turn. At 2:17 a.m., he sat up and stared at the corner. Dad, he whispered. The house leaned in. I felt something inside me break. Stop, I begged. Take me forever. Don't do this again. The man studied me for a long time. Then he said something I hadn't expected. You still think the house chooses alone? He said. What do you mean? He stepped aside and showed me something hidden deep within the walls. Layers of memories, overlapping like fingerprints. Faces, names, promises. Every person who had stayed had shaped what came next. The house learns from us, he said. It becomes what we were. I understood then. The house wasn't evil, it was desperate, afraid of being empty, afraid of being forgotten. The boy whimpered softly. I moved closer, pouring everything I had left into the space between us. Warmth, safety, calm. Go back to sleep, I whispered, not as a warning, but as comfort. He relaxed, his breathing slowed. The house resisted, walls creaking in protest. The man looked at me sharply. You're changing the balance. I already paid the price, I said. Now let me choose what remains. The house shuddered. The lights flickered violently. For the first time, it didn't feel hungry. It felt tired. Morning came. The boy woke up smiling. No whispers, no shadows. The house was quiet. The man stood beside me, his outline fading. If you do this, he said, there will be nothing left of you. That's fine, I replied. Lily stood in the hallway, older now, almost grown. She paused suddenly and looked around. Her eyes filled with tears for no reason she could explain. Thank you, she whispered into the empty space. The house sighed. The walls softened. The shadows loosened their grip. Memory by memory, I let go. When the last piece of me faded, the house did mine. Something it had never done before. It let go too. Years later, people would say it felt warm inside, peaceful, like a place where nothing bad had ever happened. They would never know why. And that was the point.